Today is International Mental Health Day. And don't you think it's curious that in the year 2020 we have to have a day specifically to bring awareness to mental health? But we do. The current situation in our society is that a lot of people are really struggling with their mental health. And there's very little help available for people. We're not really equipped for it. We're still very locked into this idea that when people get sick, it's a physically related kind of problem. So mental health is a big issue of our times. It's something that we do have to tackle head on because as things change with technology, people using phones, a whole new generation coming up who are experiencing the influences of global politics and pandemics and everything's happening in the world is suddenly in our laps at all times. So it's very little to control what children are reading, what children are experiencing, and how they comprehend such an enormous amount of information coming into them. So mental health is a problem, it's potentially a growing problem, and we do have to find ways to deal with it. The current healthcare system is really struggling with this. They're not really equipped. There aren't enough people that are able to offer the right kind of help. And mental health is complex. There's no one thing with mental health. It's not like you break your arm and you know how to fix a broken arm. Somebody comes along and says, I don't feel right, and often they have no idea why they don't feel right. And we have to work out, is it a biochemical thing? Is it something to do with their history? Is it something to do with their life currently that they're in denial about? It's incredibly complex. In our system of medicine, 5 Elements Acupuncture, our goal is, in the initial consultation, always to work out what is the state of the physical health of the person, the mental health, and the spiritual health. Because we recognize that a human being is composed of body, mind, spirit. There is no such thing as just a mental health problem in isolation, or a physical or a spiritual. All three are one, and they all affect each other. So we are in the habit of asking questions about mental health. We are in the habit of trying to get under the surface of what the person is telling us. We are in the habit of listening to how someone tells us the way they feel, not just what they're telling us. In fact, what they tell us often is completely irrelevant to how we ultimately treat them. And this is not to be disrespectful about people's version of their life or their story, but to recognize that a lot of us don't have self-awareness. We're so busy getting on with our life. All we know that suddenly is that we don't feel right. We feel depressed, or we feel angry, we feel upset. And when that gets too much, we go and seek help. But we really don't know what's going on. So we need to start to be a bit more compassionate. And we need to, I think, recognize that this is a big problem. And there are very lonely people, there are very sad people, angry people. There are all kinds of emotional symptoms that a lot of people can kind of hide away and not let anyone know about. So I would suggest for our awareness of mental health is really to ask ourselves, how am I? How do I really feel? As opposed to the fronts that I put out there. And then to really listen to our friends and family and be sensitive to how they feel. Because they may say they feel fine, but do they really? Does it make sense when they say I feel fine? Do you actually hear that? So I think to just pause, slow down, and really start listening to each other so that we can kind of follow the old adage of charity begins at home. If we can really listen to ourselves, our loved ones, the people we work with, our smaller community, that's a huge step forward to a global compassion and a way of understanding that, we're fragile creatures. Human beings are fragile physically, mentally, and spiritually. And we're here together and we need to look after each other. And our mental health in this very difficult time with the pandemic and politics and everything else is absolutely crucial to our future success.